Greetings dear friends, Dragon here once again. If it's your first time stumbling onto my tiny little corner of the YouTubes or the FoodTubes, then do please consider clicking that red button and subscribing. It is Eastern Heroes time, first of two, because I've got 2 issues through pretty much together. So first up is this, the incredibly bumper-sized, huge softback edition of the Way of the Dragon special edition. Now to give you an idea of size, I think this one's about 240 pages. This is one of the previous issues, the Jackie Chan special, and you're seeing you're getting about twice the mag. Incredible for the same price. So easily the biggest issue that Rick's put together so far. So let's dive in together and take a wee look and see what you're getting inside. So first up, if you order through the website, and it's Eastern Heroes website, which I'll leave a link down to below, you get the extra bits and pieces. So we get the Way of the Dragon theme tune variations, which is pretty damn cool. Thanks to Jim MK for the tracks. So an audio CD this time round, as opposed to a DVD that we've seen on some previous issues. And we also get big version of the front cover, which is a classic Bruce v Chuck shot from the Colosseum fight at the end. And then the magazine itself, we start off with an introduction from Rick himself, speaking about the Way of the Dragon, his first experience seeing the movie, along with some great stills. Then we dive into Rick being joined by Alan Canvan. Alan was recently the chap who's done the Redux version of Game of Death. So the two of them together kind of go through a little bit more on the storyline behind Bruce's directorial film, behind Way of the Dragon, which is the first movie that really Bruce directed entirely himself. So you could argue that he had a large part to play in the Low-Way productions. So I can speak about the production company that he formed to do it, compare it through to a few other movies, so kind of an obvious comparison to Rumble in the Bronx. And kind of pull in some Taxi Driver connections as well, a couple of scenes that Bruce had listed, clearly inspired by other places. Briefly mention A Man Called Tiger, the Jimmy Wang Yu movie. All in all, pretty great little kind of wee chat between the two guys, and then they kind of bring it back around to speak a little bit about the Game of the Death Redux. And next up we get the first of 2 incredibly large memorabilia sections, which are an absolute joy to dive into. This is courtesy of Mike Disnbit's collection, and he has a vast collection. A lot of the stuff would cost you a huge amount of money to try and track down the originals. I will never be able to afford even 1/100th of the amount of stuff that Mike's put together, and he's very kindly allowed a huge chunk of it to be scanned in for the magazine. So it's kind of the next best thing to be able to track down the original lobby cards or posters, is to kind of have them all grouped together in one place. So we start off with a series of UK lobby cards, which are pretty damn cool. Stills from the movie. Move into cinema tickets, some Japanese flyers, of which he has quite a lot, Chinese press books, and then various posters from around the world. Some will recognise, I remember that one from the old UK VHS cover at one stage. Then Japanese Yamakutsu cards, which are sort of slightly different format to lobby cards, slightly different size, and very, very, very rare. Asian magazines and books, of which Mike has an enormous collection, so he kind of very kindly allowed all the covers to be scanned in. So even if you're just using this as a wee catalogue to browse through and see what is out there, and if there's one thing that particularly catches your eye, you can kind of then endeavour to try and track that particular item down. But it's pretty incredible seeing all of these together in one place. Thank you hugely again to Mike for allowing all this to be shared. And Bruce Lee Poster Magazine, issues 1 and 2. And then we get fan club fanzines. A couple of letters from the Chuck Norris fan club, from Chuck to a couple of different fans. Very cool. And then signed folder and photos. With the times when he's been able to kind of get Chuck's signature and Bob Wall's, and some signed Bruce Lee cards. We're into, I think, some soundtracks, so yep, cassettes, EPs and LPs, different transfers, more vinyl. Then VHS copies, and definitely one that I remember being in the Bruce Lee box set in the UK on VHS, and then that was the very first series that I can remember seeing the old rank VHSs on UK release. Then we get some artwork, this time from Sing On Soi, and then UK USA mags and books. So a lot of these, my American friends will probably no doubt remember some of these from back in the day. Bruce Lee, the Martial Arts Phenomenon magazine. Oh, good old Combat magazine. A big part of many of our childhoods. Clash Kung Fu, Dragon Power. Pretty exhaustive selection, really, all with Way of the Dragon related covers. And we dive back into our articles, and here's one from my buddy Alan. Alan often does the kind of very poster-centric articles, and that's certainly what he's done in this case. So he takes a look at the various different Way of the Dragon posters from around the world. Alan's articles are always an absolute treat. This one, no exception, and he also kind of talks about what you would potentially draw from the movie if you were just looking at the posters first without having seen the film. So he does a kind of previewing and a post-viewing perspective on how accurate the posters are for giving you a sense of what you're going to get from the movie, which is pretty good fun. And we get Bruce versus the Land of the Rising Sun, an article by Simon Pritchard, where he kind of dives into some kind of facts and figures from the movie. Oh, there's some great stills there. Then Michael Nisbet, the chap who allowed his memorabilia collection to be shown, relays his encounter of meeting the Big Boss from The Big Boss, meeting John Ben, and visiting his restaurant in Hong Kong, which I think he'd renamed the Bruce Lee Cafe. And Michael was able to kind of visit there and take some great pictures of John Ben and himself visiting, which is pretty cool. So it's kind of good getting personal recollections. It's kind of one of the things that makes the magazine really special. Then we get, for me, one of the absolute highlights of this issue as a whole. Pretty incredible article by Michael Worth, the man behind Pearl River, and Frank Jeng's frequent collaborator on a huge amount of commentary tracks, even more so moving forward. And he speaks about Bruce Lee's connection to a cinematographer, his Japanese cinematographer, Tadashi Nishimoto. Michael Worth always had a very kind of good sort of technical grasp on the cinematography and the way that kind of cameras are used in martial arts movies, having made a great many himself. And kind of this is really quite a joy. He kind of dives in, speaks a little bit about Shaw's, because the cinematographer in question had also done quite a lot of stuff at Shaw Brothers. And that's a really kind of great article. Again, with some really kind of nice stills of Bruce with the cinematographer and Raymond Chow. Very, very cool. And we get a big photo gallery sequence breaking down the Nunchaka sequence, which for many of us in the UK we did not see for years and years. This was cut by the BBFC. At that point, too many of us were cutting up broom poles, attaching them with a bit of chain, and then concussing ourselves or other people. So nunchuckas, as with all things to do with ninjas, were banned when I was a kid. It took years for that to be reinstated. And so it kind of breaks down the whole sequence from the film. Really nice to see. Then we dive into me, and this time round Rick had asked me to have a little look at all the different versions of Way of the Dragon that are available on Blu-ray and on DVD around the world, of which there is almost too many to mention, so I kind of grouped together some of the main big kind of ones that I think most of you will either have seen, own, or might be already aware of, and then try to throw in a few that you maybe aren't, and then kind of give a little bit of an overview of what's maybe the best singular edition to kind of get, which usually, spoilers, comes down to being the Criterion Bruce Lee set, which for the time being I still think is the best box set out there that groups together all the films. So that is me for this issue. Then we get Return of the Dragon, a piece of cinematic excellence, The Way of the Dragon by John Negron, talking about his collection, and with some kind of great stills from some of the Way of the Dragon figures that he's been able to accumulate. I always love seeing the action figure collections, because I certainly don't have the room for that sort of stuff. And it's really nice kind of seeing other people's collections here, and then he's also given us a few other bits and pieces from his collection as well at the same time. Very different pieces to the ones that we saw on Michael's. It's kind of nice seeing the two side by side. Very, very cool. Again, a bunch more different magazines and books and some strange little memorabilia, some comics. Very, very cool indeed. And this really kind of takes us through the main second half of the special issue. And this is really our kind of two collectors' giant collections transferred over for us to kind of a little peruse through. And pretty wonderful. Loads and loads more different magazines. Flyers, Inside Kung Fu Monthly. A bunch of these magazines that are sadly long gone, so really this is kind of in some ways the only way to kind of see them all together. Martial Arts Illustrated, which is another one I remember from when I was a kid. bunch from all around the world. New Fortune Star DVD release that looks like it's out of Japan. Bruce Lee skateboard. Some more lobby cards. Still around, I think, the Hong Kong lobby cards from there. A couple of other alternate releases. Again, I think there's Japanese Blu-ray. Some games. The Bruce Lee Xbox game. Some other associated weird memorabilia. Looks like some sort of energy drink. Hard to tell. My Japanese is not that good. And then a bunch of original newspaper adverts, posters and flyers. Press release cards, some more stills, frame pictures. And large format posters. A different selection of vinyl releases. And then we get Thomas Gross's memorabilia collection, and he's given us a series of Hong Kong lobby cards, German lobby cards, and then Japanese lobby cards, Yugoslavian lobby cards, German, Spanish, Mexican, Swiss, Turkish, and some USA lobby cards. UK, French lobby cards, and then a series of different posters again. So I said 2 different collectors. I stand corrected, there's 3 main collections in this issue. And then some collection of different photographs, and a little miscellaneous section, cassettes, and some what I think is maybe, hard to say, but I suppose it looks like a trailer on 8mm film. Different VHS releases, press books and adverts, exhibitors' press sheets, and that takes us to the end, and that's it. That's your special edition with a nice advert for Scott Adkins' Accident Man Hitman's Holiday on the back. But yeah, pretty bumper sized issue. This was previously available as a hardback, but it's now still available. I think the hardback sold out really quickly. Still available as a softback. I'll leave a link down below to Rick's website, and you can order it from there if you want to get the poster and the audio CD. Thank you very much for watching this. I'll see you just in a minute for the other issue that's just dropped as well. I've recently set up a Patreon, which is going incredibly well so far, and like most of the contributors, I certainly don't get paid for my contributions to Eastern Heroes. So if you like what I do in the magazine, if you like what I do on the channel, then do please consider jumping over and taking a look at the Patreon page. I'll leave a link down to that below. My huge thanks once again go out to Kevin Smith, to Johnny Wheats, to Dustin Lewis, to Owen Jones, to Carlos, to the Asian Cinema Guy, to Matthew Miskick, to Big Movie Freak, to Andy T, to Andy Dolloway, to Alistair Dyson, and to Bing Boglar for all already signing up to various different tiers. If you do want to help try and support the channel that way and you're able to, I would be very, very grateful if you take a look at the page. That is it. I've been the Fanatical Dragon. I will see you all on the next one. Take care.